On this week's episode of the two-stroke V8, you guys will watch me set this reluctor wheel up with a sensor, modify this bracket, fully weld it, and we borrowed this keyed shaft from a go-kart. Alright, so I started the day off just welding up on this. I'm going to fully weld everything today on it. So you can see it just filling in everything. Still got to do all this and just welding down every single seam. And then I'll go over it. I got a flapper disc. It's like a sanding disc for your grinder. So I'm gonna go over this with that, welding in here as well. So I'm gonna, literally everything's gonna be welded, and I'm gonna grind this lip and make it flush. Cause when I did this, I made these, I put my finger in there and I tried to get it as centered as I could with the actual engine, cause I cut this hole slightly smaller. So I'm just gonna keep at it, get this thing welded, grind it, and then begin to reinstall it. Maybe I'll paint it. I just ran out of MIG wire, so I figured I'd do another kind of turnaround on it, show you guys where it's at. Still gotta cut this right here. Oops, this right here I need to cut and then beat it in with a hammer so that a bolt can fit there. So it'll just be turned in a little bit on that one side, on each side. This one needs it too, just a hair. But yeah, this thing is totally awesome. It reminds me of Iron Man when he makes the Iron Man Mark 1 suit to get out of that cave. How it's like super, looks like this. It's just pieced together. But I have complete confidence in this. This is, every time I keep like refining stuff, I get more and more confident it is going to work. It's gonna be so awesome. But I'm probably gonna, I don't even think I'm gonna grind it. At first I was like, I'm gonna grind all this. No, to me this is totally awesome. In fact, I wanna paint it like silver, so I wanna make it so everyone can see all my welds that are junk. But that's a piece of metal in there to fill a hole. But yeah, I definitely am going to put this in that Chevy I was talking about now with no hood, because I want people to walk up when this is at a car show. I want them to walk up and be like, oh my god, this thing is like held together with like super glue, like they'll be like, what in the world, this thing is awesome. I'm about to go pick up a harness, an engine harness, throttle body, fuel injectors. It's a whole intake. But the price on it is $350, which is kind of a lot, so I'm gonna try to get it lower so it's about pretty fair. But yep, it's for a 07 to 13, which is everything that I bought over here. All this stuff is the reluctor wheel and camshaft is for like a 07 to 2013 LS. And then we will just bolt it right back on and do a mock-up. And I think for this next mock-up, I think I am going to put RTV all the way on this and actually bolt that plate on pretty good and get it so that I can actually start it and hook a hose to that coolant port. The one up there with that little fitting, I have a hose that has a smashed end on it. So I think I'll just hose clamp it on so coolant will go in and just come right back out so I can run the engine on a stand. I flipped it upside down to weld the backs of everything, so you can see I welded these gussets on here, and I got one down there. I can get to the back of all of this, which is the bottom actually, and threw some welds on there. But it's coming along. I ran out of MIG wire yesterday, or 2 days ago now, but today is Saturday and we're back at it. So we're gonna finish welding this up, clean it up, bolt it back on, and then hopefully finish this shaft up today. Yep, I'm gonna keep welding it once it cools down a little bit more. I had some clearance problems with this, so I just cut it. Yeah, see my finger? It's coming out of the glove. Thumbs are like it too, but I cut this and then just beat it in so that that hole is clear. Did it on the other side too. I'm about to weld that and then finish up the welding on this down here, and then we're gonna bolt it back on. This thing is so awesome, and with every weld I've gained confidence in it. I 100% think that this thing I built is going to work, 100%. It is incredibly strong, and this plumbing stuff, it's gonna work. I mean, it'll definitely will be fine. This turbo thing is just awesome, just looking at it, like that's right out of an engine, just the turbo. So I'm gonna film the slow-mo for you guys. Well, we're back on this, and I'm just gonna kind of elongate these holes, make it fit better so that the bolts, they're not super tight, and some of them don't want to go in. So we're just gonna fix them. There's a bunch of them. So here we go. Okay, now we install this puppy. So it should only go on one line. this. Get in there. Why did I feel like it came off out easier? Now it's stuck. This should only line. Yep. I don't know what's with today and why it got so hot again. Alright, I'm just gonna put this in and come back. Alright, so there's not too much information out there, except there's one video on YouTube where a guy is talking about the timing or the clocking of the reluctor wheel and everything on an LS so that you can put it on any engine. And it's on YouTube. The video is like 20 minutes long, and man, it is incredibly confusing. The guy like is thinking out loud. It's helpful information, but it could just be done a little better, like cleaned up, I think. But from what I learned, it's so confusing, but from what I learned and took out of it was that this gap here in this reluctor wheel where there's no teeth, there's only one spot where there's no teeth, that is at 90 degrees. So if you turn this roughly like that, 90 degrees to the engine, and it is when the number 3 cylinder is at top dead center. And then that's where this sensor plugs in to read it right on the side. So what I'm going to do is that. And luckily for me, you know, I can just keep relocating this sensor. This is all mild steel, so I can literally put the sensor anywhere I want. But we're gonna mimic that of an LS engine. Right now I have and it doesn't matter at all because I don't have this actually permanent on this shaft, so I can set this up, this sensor, set it up where I want right now, and then later I can come in and mark this shaft when I get everything set up and it all timed. So we're gonna do that, and I'm putting it at that video. It's the only thing I can find, so I'm hoping that it's accurate. If anyone has a 2007 to 2013 LS engine, I don't know anything about them. There's like LS3, LS7, LS9, I don't even know. It's really confusing, but they all should be the same. Same sensors, same reluctor wheel. I would like to see a better interpretation of this with maybe even sketched out stuff, but we're gonna put this at number 3. I'm gonna drill a hole and put this through it and weld a piece of metal to set the distance where I think it should be about accurate. If I'm gonna get it as close as possible, because I can always put washers behind this and shim it out. But that's the next step. I think I'm gonna put it on this side of the engine, over here, the sensor on the driver's side of the engine. Well, wait, that's where my exhaust will be. So maybe I should put it, I'm trying to picture the LS. He had his engine upside down and he pointed to the left side, which means the sensor would be on the right side of the engine. So maybe I'll put it on the right. I wish I had an LS. I tried to buy one, but it's impossible. Like finding a 2007 to 13 LS, even parts for them apparently, at least where I'm at in the Panhandle, there's almost nothing. But if you go way back into the 2000s, that stuff seems everywhere, 20-year-old stuff. But yeah, we're gonna press on with this, weld this sensor, and at least get this sensor set. And I've got the camshaft sensor here too, which we'll wait to mount this one till we have actually clocked this stuff where we want it with the crank. And I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna put a keyway in here too later on. It might not even be this week's episode because we're running out of time. Lots of life has been coming at me. But we're gonna press on with this, mount it real quick. So I'm gonna mount this right here, and I marked this because that's where it kind of needs to, I need to cut that away, but I just decided I'm just gonna cut these triangles out and it's just gonna be braced like that. So I'm gonna cut this, and I think I'm gonna mimic it on the other side too, because we just have some clearance issues. You can see I was clearing it a little more right there. I'm just gonna do that, kind of follow this line here and then right to it, like down at an angle on both sides. It'll still be plenty strong. I mean, it's not going to get weaker by cutting this triangle off because it's already cut. So that's the next step, because I don't want to pound all this back out just to cut it. So I'm going to try to cut it with this here. So I'm going to do that. It's starting to rain, so soon I won't be able to record because it gets so loud in the shop that you won't be able to hear me talk even. But I made this plate, drilled 2 holes in it, one for this to go through, one for a bolt, and I'm gonna put it in place and then weld it, just tack weld it for now, check it, and then I got some extra metal here, some pieces I'm gonna use to brace it. So I'm gonna put it in place. Well, that looks pretty good. Oh, I cooked my finger. All right. Now we just gotta pull this back out before we melt it. So there's that. That's its spot. I'm gonna put a little more welds on it. That should work. So there's our crankshaft trigger there. The next stage is I'm going to take some keyways and take this shaft out and actually cut a keyway in this shaft. You know, that shaft out there on the go-kart might actually be a 5/8 keyway shaft, which would make life much easier. So I'll go check that first. But what I'm gonna do is use a file. I might have to cut a file so that I can fit in this 5/8 hole and just file it back and forth to file a keyway slot. I'll put a keyway in this, and I'm going to, man, I could have probably ordered some of this stuff, like those set collars that I'm using, like these. I'll even try to keyway it and then weld this set collar to the stuff so the keyway goes through this as well. This is welded, and then I'll tighten that down. So we're gonna do it as best we can, but the next step is to get the pistons where I need them to start setting this stuff. That guy, like, I'm gonna say it again, that guy's video said number 3 has to be at top dead center for an LS, and that's where this is. He doesn't say what stroke, nothing. So all I know is top dead center, which for me, I guess it won't even matter. I don't know. We're just gonna try it, and I'm pretty confident that it'll work. So next, what's that dog doing? Chasing geckos. But all right, here's that shaft. It totally looks 5/8, and it is cut for a keyway, and it has some keyways in it. So I'm gonna take this off and then bring it back to the shop. So here it is. These way back like 3 episodes or maybe even 4 episodes ago, these were the other bearing that I was talking about when I was ordering these, how there's many different styles. This is what I first pictured, and then we went with that style right there, how it has 4 bolts and it's flat. But so we're going to disassemble this and wire wheel it. Here it is, all cleaned up. It cleaned up really good. And we got these 2 keyways. They're a little shorter than I wanted, but I might have a really good length one laying around. So we actually ended up, good thing I ordered this 5/8 stuff. We got 4 more of these collars, set collars too, which we're gonna use one of them as a spacer too in between there. So that's pretty good that ended up good, or ended up working. So now we got this shaft. Now we need to pull the old shaft out, the current one that we have in there, and reinstall this one. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I suppose I could actually mount the reluctor wheel, notch it, and have the reluctor wheel set up on this shaft ready to go, because it'll just spin freely. Nothing will be hooked to it, and then we can do the cam last second, and then that'll work out fairly well. So now we have to disassemble all that, and it's getting not really late, but it's getting towards the end of my time that I'll be able to film this. I got to get back to work. Monday I work all day, so I'm not going to be able to have time to film anymore for this engine. So whatever I get done today is just it. So I gotta move quick. Alrighty. Oh, nope. Just laying all this. All right. This is getting better and better every day. I'm just gonna tap this baby back out, take all this stuff back apart, and redo it. All right, I'm just gonna time lapse this because we're gonna have some issues. So I'm gonna pull this apart, and it'll look like it took me a second. Well, it took me forever, but I did it. You can see it's got the keyway sticking out of it now, so I just filed it and kept test fitting it until I got it perfect. So that's one done. I'm thinking it would be great if I could double keyway it, put one on the top, one on the bottom, but for now, testing purposes and everything, one will work. So I know I just ordered those collars that slide on here, and I just found 4 more, so now I have 8. But I think I'm going to order ones with this cut, like I was talking about earlier, with this cut in it, so that I can just put it right over this same keyway and then weld the collar to this plate, so it'll allow more keyway surface area and the set screw to go in here. So that'll help a lot with the strength and durability, and the set screws being able to help keep it all in place. As many as I can get to lock it down, the better. And before we go ahead and reinstall it, we're gonna take the grinder to these edges here. You can see they're pretty gnarly. I was at such an odd angle. You can see how that right there is cut at an angle actually. And then we still have to cut this one out, the same triangle. So we're gonna do that before we reinstall this new shaft. So here it is. So this is looking awesome. And this shaft here slides in way better into those bearings. I think this other one being galvanized, I think it just adds a ever so slightly a larger diameter to it. But this keywayed one fits great, and you can see down in there, I've got that reluctor wheel with the keyway in it. Here's the pup, making sure that we're being safe or something, I don't know. But she's squeezing past me, jeez. So you can see the reluctor wheel spins with this shaft, but the cam timing chain does not, because we don't have that keywayed yet. But we have this, so that should be right there according to the internet, where your number 3 cylinder is at top dead center. And we made this bracket, just could use a little cleanup around in the edges and making it look prettier. But one more step forward, and every single week I get more and more confident in it. I believe it'll work 100%. So this thing is looking totally killer, I think. I mean, look at that. Maybe it's just because I built it that I'm proud of it. You know, someone else might be like, dude, that looks like hot garbage. But to me, this looks totally killer. So that's it for this week's episode. Next week, I am actually going to go to the junkyard. I saw that the local junkyard, they have a harness for like $200, I think it was, and not cut. I keep finding them on Facebook Marketplace. People cut them, and hopefully the junkyard doesn't cut theirs. But I'm gonna get a harness, the ECU. The ECU is 75 bucks. And then I found a guy selling an intake manifold for a 07 to 13 LS drive-by-wire with the plenum and all the fuel injectors for $75 or best offer. So I'm gonna try to pick that up. Then I have the throttle body, all 8 injectors, a harness. What else did I say? The computer, that's biggest, yeah, but the computer, and we already have the cam sensor and the crank sensor. But once we get those things, I'm just waiting on, I messaged my friend Derek, who he has the tools to build me some O2 bungs. The only ones I can find, or not O2, man, see, it's getting tired. The fuel injector bungs, the only ones I can find are aluminum, and I sent him a picture and saying, yeah man, I can't find any made of mild steel. And he goes, I said, they're only aluminum. I go, maybe people just build custom intakes out of aluminum. And he goes, I think sheet metal is the last thing people use. And I was like, you know, that makes total sense, man, because you can never find just mild steel parts that go on an intake manifold. So once he sends me those, we can then weld fuel injectors into that intake manifold we made and just keep rolling. But it's getting kind of like every week. I told you guys I'm gonna put a video out on this every single week, but we're getting down to, it's like the final stages. So actually acquiring now these harder to get parts. I say harder to get, but they're just parts that I can't fabricate. So, but that's gonna be what's gonna hold me back. So this week I'm going to just scrounge for them, find them, get them, and then we can keep rolling. But we're gonna, oh geez. I think I'm going to build a platform for both these engines here. This is a video coming up. I actually have been working on it, but I think I'm gonna build a little rolling cart for both of them so I can have them on engine stands and just bolt them down, have everything hooked up, and fire them up right there on the stands. But that is, who knows how many weeks away. So I'll show you guys one last look at this engine, and then I gotta go. Wham! Yep. That thing just looks awesome. I mean, this has to go into a rat rod with no hood. Because when this thing is painted, you know, I'm thinking of painting that Pontiac blue. It looks like if someone mixed silver and blue kind of together. It's really, it's unique. It's like a unique blue. And paint this silver. I want everyone to see how crappy it is, because it just looks badass. But, yep. Figured I'd give you guys one last gander. That is a paint stick. All right, guys, all right, guys, that's that for this week. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.